Hi, this is Dr. Mercola. I want to welcome you to the Juicy and Strong Immunity and Beauty Bootcamp. And for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a physician, family practice, board certified for over almost 40 years now. Actually, it's for just about 40 years and treated tens of thousands of patients. But for the last 22 years, I've had a website, and that website for the last 17 years has been the most visited natural health site on the planet and still is, even though Google took us out of the search engines a year ago. So we're still providing information to loads of people. So I'm just delighted to have the opportunity to share information with you because our reach has been a little bit limited because of the Google censorship. So what would I like to talk to you about? I want to give you some pearls because that you can use in light of what's happening in 2020. Obviously, the most significant story is that we've been infected with this virus, SARS-CoV-2, which has caused a shutdown of essentially the entire world economy, causing and killed hundreds of thousands of people, led to enormous challenges. So I'd like to provide you with specific strategies that you can implement that will improve your resiliency, improve your immune system and ability to fight not only this specific infection, but pretty much most any infection, and not only that, but other diseases like heart disease and cancer and other strategies. So probably one of the simplest ones, and one that we're actually involved in a really comprehensive collaborative campaign with many other websites, is to optimize your vitamin D levels. And vitamin D is a steroid hormone that you don't even have to pay a penny for, and especially at this time of year in the summer in the Northern Hemisphere. All you need to do is expose enough skin to sunshine. So sensible sun exposure is what you were designed to be to optimize your vitamin D levels. And somewhat like blood sugar or your blood pressure, you can't feel what a healthy vitamin D level is. The only way you can know is to measure it in your blood. And if you're watching this in the United States, that level is usually determined in nanograms per milliliter, and an optimal level is 40 to 60. So the question becomes, now if you're in Europe or in Canada, that you multiply that by 2.5. So it'd be 100 to 150, somewhere around there. And it's in nanomoles per liter. So question becomes, what percentage of the people in the United States have that healthy vitamin D level? Well, would you believe it's like 7%? 17%. That's it. 17% is the only, that number is what is present in the United States. So clearly most of us need to optimize this. So I recognize and realize that many of us are simply unable to get outside and take advantage of it. Many of us aren't working, but a lot of us are. If we're working, we're going to be inside and not able to go outside around solar noon. Because if you go out at 9 o'clock in the morning, or when you get home from work at 4 or 5, 6 o'clock at night, the sun's going to not be high enough in the atmosphere and to penetrate the rays, the UV ultraviolet radiation coming in and generate vitamin D in your skin. So you won't get vitamin D levels by exposing your skin. It has to be at the right time. So if that's the case, then you're going to want to take some oral vitamin D. So we have, if you come to my site, which is mercola.com, MERCOLA, probably on the home page, there's going to be really big banners about this vitamin D campaign. So I've written a 35-page document that's really well referenced and has been peer-reviewed by about a half a dozen of the leading vitamin D researchers in the United States for accuracy, and it will give you all the references, about 150 references, and many of them are actually published this year that have actually studied the use of vitamin D and done correlations in COVID-19. And there's probably at least half a dozen trials ongoing right now to show that it works. There's no prospective, well-controlled, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials. So those are in process. So that is one thing you can do. It's simple. And even if you were to take the pill, it's one of the least expensive supplements you can take. If you're going to be dosing, I mean, the conservative recommendations are like 600 units a day, but that's not going to work. You're going to need at least 2,000 units a day, depending on what your blood levels are. Maybe as much as 6,000 or even 8,000 units a day. But ideally, you get your blood level tested. If it comes back at 20 or 30, then you know what your dose should be. So we have created a little calculator that you can put in your age, your body weight, because that's another variable too, and then what your current vitamin D level is, and then it will tell you exactly what your dose should be and how long you need to be on it for. So it's a simple strategy. I'm hoping that you will help yourself, your friends, and your family, and then download this document and then join our army to be a sort of a health activist and spread this information around, especially to the elderly, because the elderly and the people of color are at most risk. And in fact, there are certain subpopulations in the United States. Black children, there's less than 1% of black children who have ideal vitamin D levels. Less than 1%. 99 out of 100 don't have enough. So these kids are at risk. So the African American community, people of colors, Southeast Asians, Middle Eastern individuals, South America, Central America. So these are the people who have a barrier, dark skin that prevents us getting enough vitamin D from the sun. They need to be in the sun longer. So hopefully you'll be able to connect with those individuals, reach out maybe to churches or other organizations that have large numbers of these members, and spread this message, to be an evangelist, to help them understand that before the second wave comes in the fall, that if they can optimize their vitamin D levels, they'll radically reduce the risk for this infection, but also increase their health overall. So that's probably the single most important message. And you can also spread this message to any elderly friends or neighbors or relatives, especially in nursing homes, assisted living facilities. So in talking to the manager of these facilities and sharing this document with them to help them understand that just a simple addition of vitamin D could literally immunize their individuals against this illness, and at virtually no cost and no risk of this vaccine that will be out in the fall, that will pose unknown consequences and side effects, that is absolutely not going to be safety tested, because there's this Operation Warp Speed to get this vaccine out as soon as possible with no testing, no safety testing. If that isn't a prescription for disaster, I don't know what is. So what is another simple thing you can do to really improve your health? And that is, we know that about 9 out of 10 people in the United States are metabolically inflexible. That is, they are insulin resistant. They have lost the ability to seamlessly shift between carbohydrates and fats as their primary fuel. So that is probably between vitamin D and insulin resistance, the two most powerful metabolic variables that predispose you to developing these infections, because it impairs your immune system and leaves you really predisposes you to an under functioning immune system that will increase your reactive oxygen species and cytokine storms, which is actually what leads to death in COVID-19. So the way that you can become metabolically flexible is actually quite simple and not that difficult. We also know that 90% of the people in the United States, 9 out of 10 people, eat more than 12 hours a day. They're eating more than 12 hours a day. And I would say probably 3/4, at least 50% are eating up to 16 hours a day. And for many, the only time they're not eating is when they're sleeping. And for some of those people, they're even getting up in the middle of the night and eating. So they're eating around the clock. That's a prescription for metabolic disaster, and actually one of the primary reasons that contributes to insulin resistance. So by simply restricting the window of time that you're eating and compressing it, to about 8 hours or so, maybe even 6 if you can. But initially, if you're eating like 13 hours and go down to 12, then 11, then 10, getting down to 8 hours over time will radically retrain your body and allow it to start burning fat as its primary fuel, which is the key issue. Another thing you can do, and it's the third powerful part of this insulin resistance strategy, is to make sure you ditch all the industrially processed vegetable oils, things like corn oil, safflower oil, canola oil. These are just beyond terrible. They're far, far worse than sugar. There's no comparison. Sugar, I mean, I'm not recommending everyone go on a sugar binge. That's not a good thing to do long-term, but short-term, sugar is not that harmful. It causes your blood sugar to spike a little bit. And if you do that regularly, that's problematic. But these industrially processed omega-6 vegetable oils, they get integrated into your cell membranes, and every cell in your body has a membrane. And these dangerous manipulated fats get embedded in your membranes, and they stay there for months, and they just wreck your cellular metabolism. So to ditch those oils, and doing that, restricting your time that you're eating, is going to be an enormous way to not only improve your resistance to these infections, but also radically decrease your risk of dying of the three most important diseases in this country, and the most prevalent, which would be heart attacks, heart disease, cancer, and Alzheimer's or pre-senile dementia. So you do not want any of those diseases, and you will probably reduce your risk by 75% if you can implement these strategies. So it's a simple thing. There's virtually no cost to this. Again, what I would strongly recommend is coming to my website, mercola.com, and I'm confident that we will have a big banner on there directing you to how to download this document and the strategies and the calculators on how to integrate or get on board with this vitamin D campaign. So thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope it's helpful and will serve to improve your and your family's health so that you can truly take control of your health.